And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. So it's been a while since I've done a video, and I thought today no better technology to look at than the integration between FortiDeceptor, FortiNAC, and FortiGate. Now, the thing about FortiDeceptor and FortiNAC is that they do not require a FortiGate to provide value in your environment. So if you've got another vendor's firewall, another vendor's switching infrastructure, or wireless network, it doesn't matter. Hopefully what you'll take away from this presentation is that both Deceptor and NAC can provide a huge amount of value to you in terms of not only exposing hidden threats in your environment, but mitigating those in real time. So the topology we're going to use today, I've got a hacker down here, obviously. I've got a switch connected to a FortiGate, but again, as I said, the switch could be another vendor's switch, the FortiGate another vendor's firewall. This is just what I've got right now. I've got the FortiDeceptor, and running on that FortiDeceptor is a decoy Linux web server running Apache. And then I've got the FortiNAC here, and the FortiNAC is the controller, is the network access controller for the switch. And the Deceptor has got a webhook call to both the FortiGate and the FortiNAC. So the process is thus: so the hacker will obviously enumerate the network, will discover the web server, the decoy server, and because it looks wide open, will attack it. Now, it doesn't have to be a web server. FortiDeceptor has a whole raft of different operating systems that you can deploy, a whole raft of different decoy mechanisms that you can leverage. This is just what I've chosen for the purposes of this particular demo. So what will happen there is that FortiDeceptor will detect that web server is under attack, and it will then send mitigation calls via the webhook to both the FortiGate and to the FortiNAC. The FortiGate will add the IP address of the hacker in its quarantine list. It'll ban the IP address. And the FortiNAC will call to the switch to actually disable that port that the hacker is connecting to, thereby taking the hacker off the network end to end. So let's look at that in function. So here I've got the web server. Obviously it's the attack. This will constitute the hacker's machine. Clearly it's running a VM, and you can see that presently it's working quite happily. It's busy pinging away, which means it's got connectivity. If I come to the FortiDeceptor here, I can see that I've got a decoy here. I can see that it's running an Ubuntu. There's the version 18.1, and I can see it's connected to two networks. I've got another decoy running RDP, but that's not the one we're going to use today. It's going to be this here, which is running on this network. And then I've got the exact same decoy running on another network. So that's the other nice thing about FortiDeceptor, is that it can actually service multiple different networks, different environments, not just VLANs. All right. So if we actually just drill into that for a second, just to have a look. So what we've got here is, it says, what is my type of deception that I'm running? In this case, it's going to be a Tomcat server. And then I've got the various ports that it's listening to here. Okay. And then I've got, I can add other lures to this as well. It won't allow me right now because the machine is actually running. But I could run a whole lot of other services like SMB, RDP, VNC, and so forth. If I come to my fabric, if I look at my quarantine integration, you can see here that enabled, I've got a integration with the FortiNAC via a generic webhook. And again, I've got one to this FortiGate, which is called Spoke 1, using a FortiGate webhook. And here are the various webhook mechanisms instantiated on the device. Now we can see, if I look at the quarantine status here, I've deleted all the previous logs to make this clear, so currently no attack has occurred. If I look at the incidents, again, there's nothing running here. All I should see is there's the 2 IP addresses of the 2 networks that that particular server is connected to, and there's been no attacks currently, right? If I come to my FortiNAC, here is that switch. Now, I'm managing that switch in isolation. So although it's connected to a FortiGate, I'm not managing it as a fabric. And the reason I've done this is because if you didn't have a FortiGate, you would have another vendor switch, and those switches would be managed independently on here, right? So FortiNAC is multi-vendor. You can, I can have any, I'm not going to mention vendors, but you can have any vendor switch on here. All the main leading brands, we support those. So you just create a container. Container will describe, it could be your London office, it could be your Sydney office, it doesn't matter. And then you import the relevant switches and access points. Now you can see here, it has discovered the actual hacker's machine connected on port 2 here. And this is the FortiDeceptor, the decoy. So the reason it's got a cloud there is because FortiNAC is quite intelligent. It detects multiple MAC addresses. It realizes that it's on a multi-host port there, because clearly there's the FortiDeceptor has got running virtualization on there as well. So, and in itself, it is sitting on an ESXi server. So we can see the VM MAC addresses here. We can see the MAC address of the actual IP, the physical port of the Deceptor that's connecting to the network, and we can see the IP address of the actual decoy as well, right? So FortiNAC is giving you a lot of information. I can see what VLANs they're in at the moment, so I can see VLAN 10 that both these ports are in, and I can see the default VLAN. So the way that FortiNAC works is that when a machine first connects, that machine is known as a rogue machine. It's always put into the registration or the isolation VLAN until such time as that device either is parsed via a device profiling rule in the case of an OT device, and if it matches a particular, let's say it's an Axis CCTV camera, whatever, as long as it matches that personality, it'll then get moved out of the default VLAN and placed into the current VLAN. If it's a user, the user will log in. If, as long as they pass all their security posture checks and so forth, they'll get moved into the correct VLAN. Now, if anything happens and those machines deviate from their security posture, all right, they change their persona, whatever, they'll automatically get put back into the isolation VLAN. But in actual fact, what's going to happen on this demo is that the physical port is going to get shut down. If we look at the FortiGate here, if I look at the quarantine monitor, I can see there's nothing in there. Let's just refresh that. So, okay, there's nothing in there right now because I haven't started the attack. So I wouldn't expect, and we know that because the machine is pinging away quite merrily there. Now, before I launch the attack, if I come back to the my quarantine integration here, if I look at here, you can see that on the FortiGate, I've chosen severities of low risk. All right, so basically I'm looking at any risk which will trigger a quarantine. And on the FortiNAC, I've chosen medium to high risk. So basically what that means is that the FortiDeceptor has got an entire library of attacks, and it categorizes them based on these severity levels. All right, and as soon as an attack obviously meets one of those, then it will instantiate the relevant calls here to take the remedial action on the devices that it's communicating with. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run a NICTO scan on that machine. Now, a NICTO scan in itself is not necessarily malicious, but some of the methods it uses can be construed to be unsavory. And when those meet the relevant category levels on the Deceptor, then the Deceptor will take the necessary action. All right, so now this is not going to be immediate because, as I said, we're going to wait for the relevant attacks a relevant attack of a certain criticality level to be detected, upon which time the mitigation will occur. Okay, and it looks like it's already happened there. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So let's come across here and let's look at my quarantine status. I can see there, indeed, the device has been quarantined. All right, there's the attacker's IP address. And we saw there that the ping had stopped. And if I come across here and I refresh this, we can see that indeed that has been quarantined on the FortiGate. And if I come here and I just refresh this, we can see that that port has been blocked down. So a very short demo, but that's the beauty of this. It doesn't have to be long and laborious, right? The key takeaway here is that this works incredibly efficiently at breaking down the kill chain between the hacker and your environment, right? The beauty of the Deceptor is it's acting there as the low-hanging fruit. It's drawing in the bad guy because, let's face it, they want to get in and get out as quickly as possible. They don't want to spend a lot of time in there. More time they spend on your network, the greater the chance that they're going to be detected. So as soon as they find that low-hanging fruit, they tend to attack it. And when they do that, the FortiNAC, the FortiDeceptor will alert all the other devices that it is integrated with and then take the remedial action as you've seen. So thank you very much for joining me once more, and look forward to conversing with you in another video in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.